Well, my dad's been gone since 1980, which might sound like a really long time, but it seems like yesterday to me, as his memories both inform and haunt my life every single day. Think about my dad constantly. He was a very unique guy. My dad was my world for a large portion of my life, and my dad was many things. He was a brave war veteran. My dad was a humanist who could cry at movies. My dad was a bona fide tough guy. And my dad was also a devoted horse player. So I'm second generation here when it comes to the degeneracy thing. But whereas it was just a hobby with my dad, I kind of made a life out of it. And thank you, Dad, for that. My dad taught me a lot about handicapping and took me to the horse races when I was only 8 years old, man, way back in 1965. And he took a lot of heat over the years for it, too, as I would be called the track rat and a ne'er-do-well and just a hopeless case. When I dropped out of school at the age of 16, my dad took even more criticism, but I stayed the course. My dad never lost faith in me, and thank you, Dad. Thank you very much. Happy Father's Day out there to all you dads and to your dads, wherever they may be. Hopefully, they're still alive. Kind of a special day, our worldwide Father's Day. And I'm thinking about my dad right now. My dad was not a big bettor. He'd go $5, $10 across the board and stuff like that. My mom was a much stronger gambler than my dad and a smarter gambler. But the same Mother's Day, it's Father's Day. Welcome, and I am Mark Patterson. I'm kind of new to this YouTube thing, but I'm also kind of digging it. The response has been very encouraging as the two race card videos I've put up so far with my real-time live stream thing here from my new YouTube channel have garnered like 500 views or something like that. We're already up to almost 100 subscribers. So please, by all means, subscribe. It helps me out. And give me a like if you can see your way clear to do that. The Mountain Main is fast tonight. It's been dry for the last couple of days, and the turf is firm. And there was an all-turf early pick 3 tonight, races 2, 3, and 4. Just for a little preview, I think the strongest favorite in the sequence is Bosley in the first leg, which is race number 2. I think the best value bet, and I'm not even sure the price is going to be that great. It certainly won't be the 12-1 you're looking at on a misconceived morning line. In the final leg of it, Brown Liquor Man. I think Brown Liquor Man might be the horse that constitutes the best wagering opportunity. Although, again, he's not going to be 12-1. That's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. In fact, I'm still playing around with the bells and whistles here on my YouTube channel. And one of the features I have is poorly estimated morning lines on a banner, which I'll put up here in a couple of minutes. Another new feature that I have added is, again, I still learn all the things you can do with StreamYard, which I send my signal from, is race flow notes. Just kind of a key looking forward as to how some of these races might unfold in terms of pace and stuff like that. So hopefully you guys will be digging it. I think what I might do eventually, maybe even sooner than later, I don't have the capability right now. I haven't learned it. I will to put up graphics here on my YouTube website. YouTube channel, rather. I think what I might do is put up a video once a week that recaps how the track played the previous weeks. You won't have to go to my website, The Dungeon, to check out my track bias notes. I think I might do that. And then eventually I'll learn how to put them up here on the monitor too. Strangely enough, and this might be something to keep in mind, is it is 100% chance of rain tomorrow with some strong storms and a full inch of precipitation expected. So I certainly wouldn't count on grass tomorrow. I would handicap for all dirt in a very wet Mountain Main. And strangely enough, and this is not normally characteristic of Mountaineers' main track, last week when it was off, in other words, sloppy Sunday and it dried out to the good stage Monday, there was an unprecedented string of 16 straight non-front running winners, which you never see over the Mountain Main, especially when it's wet, when it's off. Strangely enough, when it did dry out full cycle for Tuesday's program, I thought it played fairly. So I'm looking for more of the same tonight, maybe a fair surface. And I don't know if this is going to continue this off-track trend that plays against speed at Mountaineer, because it's not normally how the Mountain Main plays. But keep in mind, it's not supposed to rain tonight. It's going to be dry. And tomorrow, it's supposed to be wet footing out there. So let's flip on over and take a look at the opener here, huh? Okay, so we got some comments here. Nice to see you up and running with your YouTube Marky. Yeah, my dad used to call me Marky, and my mom occasionally. I can't think of anybody else who ever did call me Marky except for my parents. It's okay though. I've been called a lot worse. Hubert Gaffney, good handicapper and former horseman. Yes, I found it. Glad you're here. And then Rex, 1759, I'm here. Glad about that. And Tully, good friend of mine. Sunday nights are now back to normal. This is wonderful. Thank you, Mark. It's wonderful for me too, because it's kind of what I live to do. It's my natural environment to be talking about horse races on camera. Although I will break a camera, and I'm going to put that banner up right now too. My quick disclaimer here. Do not attempt to adjust your monitor. Your host is indeed the least attractive person on YouTube. Okay, so we got that clear, right? Let's go over and take a look at the odds here. And we are 8 minutes to post, and I'm checking it out. And even money on the one horse, and I'll take exception with that right away, because not only shouldn't this horse be favored, Legacy Trail, but Legacy Trail won't be favored. That'll be number 2, Sweet Queen B. And in fact, I got another banner. I got a banner for every occasion here. And I list Sweet Queen B as one of the worst conceived price points of the night at 7-2. And I'm going to pop that up here too as I play again with my bells and whistles here. There it is. Yeah, poorly estimated morning line prices. First race, Sweet Queen B, 7-2 on the program. No, going to be lower, much lower. Second race, Bosley, 3-1, will be lower, unfortunately. Fourth race, Brown Liquor Man, 12-1 is just ridiculous. Is a program price point. Brown Liquor Man is going to be way, way lower than that. I mean, much lower than that. Legacy Trail, last time at 6 furlongs, launched a strong turn move and was all over him. By the time they straightened away for home there, Legacy Trail going 5.5 though. Although Legacy Trail was alert in a 5.5 furlong victory, I think earlier in her career. Going to have to close, I think. And that's going to require some racing luck from along the inside, and maybe some help up top there. Now, the buyer was encouraging, as is the raise in claiming price. So they got Legacy Trail going really well right now. This 5-year-old mare who may hit a new high. She may be coming into her own here. Legacy Trail, maybe getting back to some of her best 2025 form, because I can see last June where she ran a career figure with a 5-length allowance win. I think some of this money is looking back at that. She fits this on the Never For Life portion of the condition. It's a mixed condition, designated with a B for beaten race. Sweet Queen B is an 11-time winner, but she's eligible because she's an all-winner in 2026. A couple of ways you can sneak under this race heading. Now, Sweet Queen B, with her 11 wins, has been better than she is now, is beaten better than she takes on the night. She's 8 years old now, and she's lost a step, no question about it, Sweet Queen B. But she's such a hard knocker, so reliable. And I think she's the speed of this race. I don't think they're real likely to hook her here. And if you give Sweet Queen B the lead, I know from experience what happens in cases like this. And since her main competition, Legacy Trail, off the better speed thing, would have to come from pretty well back, I think, at 5.5 furlongs. That's advantage Sweet Queen B. Now, I like some of her races better than others. Love the outing where she chased her wind type stablemate, who was blazing fast, Mercury Head there. I'm not thrilled with her win last year when she had to work really hard to withstand a mediocre foe named Revenue Train. She was 20 cents on the dollar for a lower claiming price than this. But I can look at a lot of her beats where she's pounded back and forth for the lead and kept trying. And I can look at her last couple of races and make her a winner here. Sweet Queen B. Fair Trade topped her last time. That was pretty much the ball game. Fair Trade's got a lively turn of early foot and was improved there. First time out of the claim box for Silva. Silva had taken this horse from Jay Bernardini. Fair Trade, I think, wired a 5.5 furlong race at Mahoning. So Sweet Queen B, but just outgunned last time on the engine. And I make her the speed in here. The toughest horse to read by far for me in this first race, as I flip back over and take a look at the odds, is number 3, Stu Bold. I think everything about Stu Bold's a contradiction for me. On one hand, Stu Bold is not supposed to like dirt that much, as all 3 of the ones have been on synthetics, but Stu Bold ran a pretty good number in an allowance race at 15-1, first time out for Rivera. Now, presumably he picked this horse up on the cheap, as Stu Bold was up the track a couple of times for 10 at Gulfstream Park before being purchased privately and popping up at Thistledown. I think Rivera was hearkening back to a horse or two that he bought over the cold weather months and won allowance races with Ed Mahoning. Uh, Tiger something, I'm trying to remember the horse's name, who had also a $10,000 form and not a great one. And he's thinking, okay, I can make an allowance horse out of a $10,000 also ran, moving from Gulfstream Park up to Mahoning. It didn't work with Stewbold, but Stewbold still went okay first time out there after braking slowly. I don't get the route thing because Stewbold doesn't seem to want to go a distance of ground either. I'll be back in a second. So one of the things that makes Stewbold such a tough horse to read is Stewbold did run well on dirt at Thistledown on May 20th, but seems to be a synthetic creature. And Stewbold's supposed to have sprint speed at 5.5 and stuff like that. But Stewbold has been sluggish the last couple of starts, including at a distance of ground. No idea where this horse was sent a route last time. Stewbold was spotted in a 4 life allowance first time out at Thistledown, and then comes down to 7,500 in here. It brings the jock in tow, so that's a good thing. Although Rivera has not been that effective this season so far at Mountaineer. It's not like his horses have been all that live. And I'm a little disturbed by this horse's trouble-prone nature and occasional slow starts there, Stewbold. I'm not expecting Stewbold to suddenly harken back to that 5.5 furlong speed at Gulfstream Park, not off the 2 Thistledown tries. And the tendency to break slowly is somewhat disturbing to me. Number 6, Everhart, is 11-1 up there. Everhart was behind Sweet Queen Bee last time, only a couple of lengths. I think Sweet Queen Bee is faster, though. Everhart's speed is route speed. So you put Sweet Queen Bee on the lead. And here, I don't give Everhart a real big chance to turn the tables there. Number 7, years ago, 20-1. This is a horse that was claimed from Charlie Williams, and he's a real sharpie. He trains his own horses, Charlie Williams, behind the scenes when he's down as owner. And this guy really knows what he's doing, Charlie Williams. They claimed this horse from Charlie, believe it or not, and whipped off 3 straight non-claiming wins. That's quite a feat. When the guy that is the current owner was down as the trainer, so I assume he's still calling the shots there. I don't like the sketchy campaigning, though. Off 14 runs once in 2024, then away again. 3 scattered starts in 2025. So this horse has the talent to come back running, but just too sketchy for me. Number 8, Kaz's Rose, just not a contender on paper. Not at all. And number 9, Anti-Angel. This is a horse that was claimed for Dennis Cluley. Dennis Cluley's really sharp, and then claimed again from Jamie Poole. So Anti-Angel, with a consistent record last year. I guess a hot commodity to claim box, although very generic Anti-Angel. And you can see the only win was at 4-5 there for a lowly 43 buyer speed fig. So Anti-Angel needs a soft spot and needs things her way to win. I think she's in too tough with a couple of these horses. I really do. And when she came closing on May the 4th, that race was closer friendly. I don't like horses that get claimed from Dennis Cluley either because he's a really sharp horseman. From the standpoint, not so much of placement, because at the entry box, he throws a lot of spaghetti and enters in pointless spots. But as far as just, I will differentiate knowledge of the game and good management from pure horsemanship. And from the standpoint of pure horsemanship, Dennis Cluley has few peers at Mountaineer. He's not the first guy I'd halter a horse from. I mean, he is really, really not Dennis Cluley. And now the board is making more sense as Sweet Queen Bee is 6-5, and Sweet Queen Bee listed on my banner as one of the poor price points, poorly conceived price points on Mountaineer's much maligned morning line, and 7-2 on Legacy Trail, who is definitely the second likeliest winner in here, I would say, for certain. So if If you can find somebody to hook Queenie early or top her, then bet against her by all means. I don't see that horse in the mix. And just on her gravitas and what I've seen from Sweet Queen B over the years, you put Sweet Queen B on the lead in this kind of a condition race, I think you're going to have a really difficult time catching her. 2-1 on Stubble, which surprises me a little bit off the 32 lengths worth of losses in those two Ohio races. I know it's a big class drop, and she's got the history on the cutback of being successful at 5.5 and showing 5.5 furlong speed. But can she still do that? Give it her penchant for slow starts and how sluggish, how straight up sluggish she's been her last couple of races. I would have to label her over bet there at 2-1 and make Legacy Trail the second likeliest winner in here. Second race does stay on turf. And as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I make Bosley, who's going to be lower than that 3-1 price point on the Mountaineer program. I make him the strongest chalk in the 3-race early pick 3 sequence. Although it's not a walkover. Faces a better field than he thumped last time, just Bosley. So Alan says on the comments, hit my first winner of the night, 7-5 though. And you know what? My gut says, since the one and the two look pretty solid for Team Mountaineer against that Invader, that might have been inside money more than computer money that made that over 7-5 there. Stubold certainly had the talent, no question about it. Third, 59 Byron, a 4-life allowance, and had a history of doing well at 5.5 furlongs. I thought there were some questions also, but the questions were certainly answered by Stubold. That is the worst race, hands down, I've ever seen Sweet Queen Bee run. Just not a good performance. Got her lead, and she'd been first or second 15 times out of 25 starts. And how many times do you think that she ever missed an exacta when she was loose at first call at Mountaineer? Not too many, I would say. But just a pathetic performance from Sweet Queen Bee, just not good at all. And big surprise to me that Stubold ended up favored over Sweet Queen Bee. I did not see that coming. Didn't have that on my bingo card, to be really honest about it. Thanks for getting with me, guys, and thanks for joining in. I see where one of my very best friends ever, Todd McCullough, is in the house. Thank you, brother. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it very much. Todd knew me back when? Back when my life was basketball and betting horses, and there was nothing else. There really was nothing else, literally. Todd's life was strapping on tight bell bottoms and a pair of platform shoes and going to local discotheque and trying to hustle babes. That was Todd's life back then, by the way. After a night out on the prowl, Todd would pop over to my trailer and we'd have good conversations and eat whatever my mom had cooked up for me that day. Eat some popsicles, stuff like that. Good memories, man. Very good memories. Second race, 1 mile on the turf. First leg of an all-turf pick 3. This is a pretty good field, 15,000 over 3. And you see where I listed Bosley as one of my misconceived price points, although so far it ain't so misconceived because it's a 6-horse that opens up his favorite, Tool Pusher. And Tool Pusher could be formidable indeed in this 15,000 over 3 on the turf. This is a really good bunch. As far as Bosley goes, Bosley out of that potent Cluley barn. And Bosley started getting good last year and topped it off with a resounding Presque Isle win, which is somewhat akin to turf. I wrote an article, a summary of the inaugural Presque Isle meet where they had all that slot money stored up and they weren't able to spend it on horse racing purses. So they were giving away like more than 400,000 a day, the second biggest daily distribution in the history of North American horse racing. And I wrote a handicapping summary of that meeting and found a big correlation between previous turf success and success on Tapeta, the synthetic blend up there at Presque Isle. So Bosley goes up there and rates just behind the lead and wins just emphatically. So comes off the bench this year. This horse doesn't want dirt at all. So toss that comebacker out. And the next time ran a lot better than looked on grass because Bosley was in a death fight out there with a very fast, recent maiden special weight wire job stretching out there. So Bosley was in a virtual war in that 7/8 race on May 17th and ran really well to succumb to a good closer named Blind Eyes, who certainly had the race shape in his favor there. Did Blind Eyes. Bosley comes back in a field he can front. You see what he did to that field. I think he's got the same scenario here. I think he is the speed. I'm not sure anybody can lay a glove on Bosley down the stretch for the first time. And I think that gives him a big leg up on victory. But the bar is higher, not just because he's got to jump a condition to the Never Threes tonight, but also because there are some real tough horses in here. Number 6, Tool Pusher, could be very salty. Ship it in from Delaware. Ran wide open last time, not an on-life condition. And I think the win and place horse each had 3 or 4 turf wins to their credit, career-wise. So that was a tough assignment for Tool Pusher. And before that was at Monmouth, where the purses are big, and Tampa for a higher tag than this. I know it was 3 life and probably inflated, but still, those are tougher assignments than what Tool Pusher takes on here. Now, Tool Pusher is only 2 for 27, which tells me the horse might have a tendency to hang. I think the horse's wins have been going shorter than tonight for Tool Pusher. So Tool Pusher, I'm not certain he can sustain his run with real ferocity with a winning edge and a full big boy mile, full big boy route of ground. But the drop in class coming to Mountaineer and the good recent form could more than balance that out for Tool Pusher. Plus, he's been running 2 turns and running the kind of buyers that are supposed to come in here and win this. Tool Pusher. Wouldn't be surprised to see him hang a little bit when he tries to get by Bosley. If Bosley gets Bosley's lead here, which is how it projects on paper. And you guys can see my new feature there. And I figured out how to do it in a scroll across the bottom of the screen. And you can see some race flow notes looking forward that I made for tonight. Yeah, controlling lead likely for near certain favored Bosley. Well, maybe the near certain favorite thing's out the window. I think Tool Pusher was the chalk, right? So let me go over and check out how that's going right now. Although the money comes in, 80% of the money comes into the win pool within the last 2 minutes. And nowadays, with the computer assisted bettors dominating the win pools and all the pools, in fact, then you can like multiply that. The second favorite, in fact, is the 1-horse, Silver Front. Silver Front could be a handful here, too. As Shane Myers, I'm pretty sure, won a turf race, a route off the bench last week or the week before with a horse that had won a couple of Thistledown dirt allowances last year and had the horse ready to win at 2 turns on turf first time off the bench. I don't care what Shane Myers' stats say with horses that have been away 6 months or more. Throw it out the window. This guy runs fit horses. Believe me. And Silver Front, first time they got him on grass, it was a revelation as he cruised at Colonial to like a 7-length win or something like that, did Silver Front. Now, I'm not all that big on his Mountaineer turf form. I know those are higher spots, optional starter allowance races. But Captain Creed's no great shakes, not really. And Silver Front went kind of spotty. Those were 11 furlong races, though, and I have a feeling he's going to be a better finisher here at 1 mile. And certainly a license to run big here, the 1-horse Silver Front. And this barn will have him fit, as evidenced by that other Shane Myers turf returnee that won, I think, and took a lot of play in the process last week at 2 turns. Well, the name of that Shane Myers off the bench winner 2 turns on turf with General Mathis, and that was June 7th. So I guess it was a week before last that he pulled that out, but a good profile match, which definitely enhances the 1-horse's chances here. Silver Front, deep field, number 2, Judge Rules. Judge Rules with some turf placings, got back over to the grass there on a class drop on May the 19th and went pretty well, although it was not a fast race. The turf was crazy quick that night. A mile race, it just went in 34. Right before that. So the 37-2 was rather pedestrian. And Judge Rules got what, at least on dirt, would have been a perfect trip as he got first run there on all the horses behind him and went past some embattled leaders there and then just couldn't hold sway. I'm not sure the horse that beat him's all that great, but the horse that beat him probably has a chance in the second leg of this. And I'm sorry, the final leg of this all turf pick 3 as a potential leader in a race that totally lacks speed. You can see my race flow note on the night's 4th on the scroll that runs across the bottom of the screen there. Although Judge Rules, I think, would have to step it up a little bit off that most recent race to win, because this field is tougher than what he faced last time. Definitely tougher. My boy Rocky, possible speed, has sometimes been known to be alert and might keep Bosley honest on top. I can't see who else might be able to do that. Number 7, Train and Trust. Train and Trust one of those 2K horses, and they've been kind of a mixed bag shipping in here for Ramon Preciado. Some of them run okay, others not so much. Don't quite run as advertised. And he's 7-1, some residual support off that 9-2 last time. He's got a couple of turf placings in his background. Should have done better, though, if he likes turf at all. And what was a slow race. And the race did feature a hotly contested leader, and the speeds did back up. So they were playing his song just fine, thank you, Train and Trust. And the race was run more slowly, I think, than this one is likely to be. Analyst on the outside got an inside trip and then steadied last start. The Catch Me If You Can win to Juha's Barn sometimes wins cheap condition races with Beulah, Belterra, not Beulah, but Freudian slip there with Belterra Invaders, kind of low on the claiming price food chain. Analyst, his only turf race was pretty good though, might have been best. I like the jock changes. Barrios isn't that suited to come from behind on grass. Not exactly a clock in his head, not exactly the gutsiest rider. Analyst did have kind of a tough trip, but again, it's set up for a close. And also, this race looks tougher to me on paper, as accurately to my prediction, Bosley is now the favorite, and at least is lower than the price point that I criticized, 3-1 on that morning line, huh? Is they're going to tool around a little bit before they go to the gate. I was in the grocery store today and wanted to get some grapes. They have to be sweet though, or you can't buy them. And I observed my mom for so many years eating a grape before she bought the whole freaking bag. So I still do it. I still do it. And man, did I get dirty looks again today from the nearest grocery clerk. Do you guys do that? Let me know in the comments. Do you eat a grape before you buy grapes? Because if they're sour, then it's a waste of money. It's an absolute waste of money. There's no way you can tell just by looking at them or by the brand. You got to eat one to see if they're sweet, right? 5-2 on Bosley. I would not be surprised to see the price drop a little bit, even though this race is very deep and competitive. The whole key for Bosley, and I'm not worried about somebody beating Bosley if nobody accosts Bosley, and I don't really see that happening. Well, that can be no surprise because I think I detailed 3 times that that particular conditioner, Shane Myers, won with an off the bench state and 2 turns on the turf, General Mathis a couple of weeks ago. And you can forget the formulator stats sometimes that you see in the racing form. Sometimes they're just not accurate. And this guy runs fit horses. They're going to be ready, dead ready. First time back, and that horse did explode. First time out on turf, which was Colonial, to win by 7. He certainly had a license, no question about it. I think 11 furlongs might have been a little too far last year. Much better at tonight's distance, an emphatic winner. And Hugh Gaffney, a good handicapper, tells me be skeptical of Delaware turf form, even though that 6 horse had run wide open last time, because it is not as strong as it seems in Colonial. Yeah, Colonial's class, no question about that. I would also add that Tool Pusher with just a 2 for 27 record. I think both of his wins, you got to look this stuff up and do your homework. I think his wins were going short, and he's probably prone to hang at a big boy full router ground there, which he did in the final stages. Barely got by a spent Bosley to get up for second. So lo and behold, we got another off bench Shane Myers horse that certainly fits the pattern in race number 3. New Age Bad Girl, going to go 7 furlongs on the turf here under open 7,500 filly and mare conditions. And New Age Bad Girl is won by some humongous margins, which you don't see on turf as often as you do on dirt. Wins by 9 in September, and they shut her down when the turf course shut down. So it makes sense that she's sound, and they waited for the return of turf to bring her back, New Age Bad Girl, for the return of mountain, because there's no grass in Ohio, which is Shane Myers' normal stomping grounds. New Age Bad Girl opened 9 to win comfortably, first time ever on turf, and has another grass win there. By 6 on turf, wins by 6, opens 9 to win by 2, and then wins straight up by 9. So it just leaves body counts in victory in some of these grass races. This New Age Bad Girl in charge, much the best. The only issue I would see with New Age Bad Girl here would be Girl By, the 5 horse, who stretches out from short sprints, 1-turn sprints there. Does Girl By, who I think stole a 4 life allowance at 7/8 on the turf here. Early Intermountainer campaign purchased privately from down Florida, as are a lot of the Jeff Fletcher horses, was Girl By. And I think she shows a 5/8 wire job there to open 3 on them around the turn. So she's going to get sent here because that's how she rolls. And she can be a speed factor and could inconvenience I think we can assume well-prepared New Age Bad Girl. I think we can read that for sure. I'm starving and had my lovely spouse bring me some snacks down here. For Father's Day, she has prepared my favorite meal, rigatoni and meatballs. So do I have it good or what, guys? Yeah, I got it pretty good, huh? I'm freaking starving. So she just brought me a couple of bags of chips there. Did my wife. Her name is Jan. She's an RN in a nearby medical center. I call her Plan because she just meticulously plans out my entire life. Don't you, Jan? Just give me the thumbs up here, my entire existence. Loves a new song, this Plan. The song about Michael Jackson. I've said this before. She's got to be the only middle-aged white chick in the world who's obsessed with late Michael Jackson, for sure. So the pace, and I listed this in my race flow notes down there, as a stiff, potentially contested pace looms here, which might cool your jets if you want to play the Shane Myers angle off the bench. But New Age Bad Girl is so fast. She may top Girl By in the early stages and live to tell about it. I don't think the reverse could possibly happen. But if you think it's going to set up for somebody from behind, we got a couple of candidates here. I am drinking, by the way, zero sugar Gold Peak. I should get money to do endorsements, right? Iced tea. I drink diet iced tea, like by the gallon. And in the comments, let me check out these comments. Somebody simply said, don't eat the grapes, Mark. For hygienic reasons, right? I don't touch any grapes except the one that I pick out of the bag, right? That's all I do. And there is no COVID anymore, right? I was scared to get arrested when I did that. And I did it on the sly. I was very stealthy about it. Even during COVID, I'd take a grape out and eat it. I would have been arrested and executed if they caught me doing that during COVID, right? 5 went too fast, it says Rex. Yeah, that's true. but there was no beating the one horse the way the one horse fired there, and that was certainly possible. It's 7-2 to boot, huh? So we're going to tool over and take a quick look at the odds here. And 6-5 on the four horse, Lou's Redemption. Lou needs some redemption after tanking first time over the track there in a higher class race. To take Wings, who's 2 for 2 on the turf and could be a bona fide turf phenom. I will say this, though. The fractions were so rapid that the race did figure for somebody to close, and Lou's Redemption did not close. A couple of inferior horses who don't even want 2 turns closed in their West Virginia breds, Mock and Reigns, suffering succotash for the minors. So even if you think nobody was going to beat Take Wings there, who's 2 for 2 on the turf, Lou's Redemption should have had a big chance to be second. And I will say, the Take Wings was, I think, forced to fight like a demon for the first half lap there, and was really getting late in the late stages there. Take Wings, and just no fire from Lou's Redemption. So the folks that think this could be one from off the pace, maybe like the jock change. And also, that win at Gulfstream Park kind of stands out for the 17-5, 3 life or not. And the buyers were really consistent up until the most recent race. And then that was no good for Lou's Redemption. So this race comes with some questions, I think, on some of these horses. Vingativa is 8-1. Vingativa won big over Mountaineer Turf, I think back in 2024. Not that horse anymore. She's not too old at 6, but she just hasn't been that horse. And you can see where Vingativa's just come down the ladder further and further and further. Now, she did perk up a little bit last time to be second to an invincible winner, Langley trainee, who just can't be fronted and can't be beaten at 5/8 on the turf. You can get the 7/8 too. New Ways to Dream was probably like 1-10 or 1-5 or something like that. Vingativa, though, had a hard time decisioning Girl By for the second place finish. And Girl By was denied the lead there, and that's not how she wants to roll. So that wasn't necessarily a good performance from Vingativa. And just because you're in with a dominating short-priced winner doesn't mean you're supposed to lose by 7 lengths at 5/8 on the turf. And it's not exactly like she was finishing with a vengeance there, either, Vingativa. But she does have that win in her history, impressive win at tonight's trip over this very course, Vingativa, and maybe gets a ground-saving voyage here. And if you think the speed's back up and you like the price, then you might want to take a shot. I'm going to step aside for the post parade and scarf down some of these chips. Please pardon my rudeness, but it's something I've never disclosed before on camera. My sugar runs a little high, and the doctors tell me I'm type 2 diabetes, not pre-diabetes, but I take a small dose of metformin, and my A1C is always good. It's like 5 flat. And they tell me to eat whatever I want, and I do. I watch what I eat, but I don't try to avoid sweets. But I think my sugar might have dropped a little bit there because I suddenly found myself desperate for some kind of a snack. And apologies for consuming that right on camera. Please forgive me, guys. Lose Redemption is 9 to 5 to make amends for disappointing effort first time over the track. I get it, the drop in class, and I get it if you think that New Age Bad Girl with that very potent angle in play off the bench, 2 turns on the turf for Shane Myers. If you think she's going to be compromised by the 5-horse Girl By and that Lose Redemption has the right style and is the first or second best turf horse in the field, then you'll get not much of an argument from me, although I will say that race wasn't good at all, considering how the race played out. First time over the Mountaineer lawn for Lose Redemption there in the change of hands. Verbal Geyser, horse, I would look at her a little bit anyways. Verbal Geyser might get some ground saving from the one post. And went well last time when protected from claim. So they liked Verbal Geyser. I guess they like how this horse wintered, had been away since January, and then was protected first time back and gave a much improved effort. I don't think that was a real strong field at Presque Isle that Verbal Geyser was in, but I like it. And Verbal Geyser, the only turf try was first time out in the life, and I'm inclined to toss that out. And a lot of horses that like synthetics do like grass, and this horse has been a good synthetic creature. And boy, in late 2024 was really good to come flying late at 6.5 and then stretch out the day after Christmas and wins well from the back half of the field and then almost wires mile and a quarter. Optional claimer at Turfway. So boy, that's some good synthetic stuff there from Verbal Geyser. And Verbal Geyser runs for Dick Finucane. He's the driving force, is the owner here. Wally Jenkins down as a trainer, but Finucane's got a history of doing really well at Mountaineer. You got to keep an eye on him for sure. And this is a horse that I would probably use someplace on my ticket at 6-1 there. Well, the first race key I think is really obvious. Is No Age Bad Girl, who's got the unfrontable speed, the breakaway speed. Is No Age Bad Girl going to top Girl By with any kind of ease? And going to be able to open the lead. It's not like she needs to rate. She runs all out the whole trip and has been successful at it. But I think the key is, can she clear Girl By before they turn onto the backstretch here? If not, then she's probably in for a long night, and the advantage probably goes to somebody else. A Lose Redemption at 2-1, a Verbal Geyser, maybe something like that. Worldly Beauty, the guy who trained the first race winner owns Worldly Beauty. Worldly Beauty with a 61 buyer from behind the good horse, Lucky Cougar, and that much classier claimer. First time out at Thistledown, didn't show up on May 18th. And we got the May 18th version here at Mountaineer, I think more than the May 6th version. And this horse is unplaced, 3 turf tries. So kind of a strange placement, in my opinion, here on Worldly Beauty. Not a race I intend to bet, by the way, because I think there are some different possibilities. Best of luck to you guys. I'm going to finish my chips. So in my race flow notes, that is something new that I added to my new YouTube channel. You can see the crawl across the bottom of the screen. It takes me like 2 minutes to type it in. That a stiff, potentially contested pace, maybe figure to break out there and compromise the speeds. And that's exactly how it played out. And the horse had got a great trip. Had never done anything on turf in 3 previous tries. Worldly Beauty. Worldly Beauty wins it. I think maybe Verbal Geyser is supposed to win it with a clean avenue there, but it didn't transpire like that, as a Verbal Geyser was in tight, bottom of the turn, and then in very tight through a lot of the home stretch. Verbal Geyser, but Worldly Beauty makes it an all Jaybird exacta there. Does a Worldly Beauty with Lose Redemption. Lose Redemption, warned you guys, didn't run well last time. Seemed like a class drop, seemed to be exiting a fast race, but that played out really in favor of her late running style. She didn't fire much there. Lose Redemption, same situation tonight for my money. As again, the flow was very much in her favor at a big class drop. It was no match for Worldly Beauty, who hadn't done much on turf, but certainly ran lights out, went fourth in an open $25,000 claimer to Lucky Cougar, a horse that you Mahoning aficionados are well familiar with, is far superior to this field. So Worldly Beauty does win it with a really good trip. I looked up the previous turf tries. They weren't good in comparison to the surrounding dirt form. I'm still thinking this horse might be better on dirt, but who knows? Whatever the case, Worldly Beauty, who did not impress last time on dirt, that's for sure, gets the job done again with a fortuitous journey tonight. Does a Worldly Beauty, as the pace does kind of melt down there in the late stages, and that was observed in my race flow notes, something new I added across the crawl there. So we got one more turf race coming tonight. And in the comments here, checking out the comments, and David Shabel says 5 A1C is perfect. Thank you very much. John Namath, good friend of mine, says that's really great. Good job. Tully says, I hate when bags of chips open from the bottom. You were watching me, weren't you, Tully? I killed the sound so you wouldn't hear me chomping. And Rex, the guy who said Charlie O will get this one horse home, I think you would have been right with a little better racing luck. I think. Maybe. Kenny Neely says, absolutely got to test the grapes. Absolutely must test grapes. 4th race, 7 furlongs. I kind of dig this YouTube thing. We'll see if we can get it rolling. We're up to 100 subscribers now. What does it take, like 500 before I can recoup any money out of all my investment here in my basement studio? So please, if you're watching, subscribe. It does help me. Yeah, this is the same race we just watched, except this time it's for the boys instead of the girls. 7/8 open 75. Here's our old buddy Rip Thorne from the 2 Post. I think I conjectured last week that he was probably getting tuned up somewhere away from the weeds, which he relishes, for a comebacker. Excuse me, guys. For a comebacker at Mountaineer on the grass. He's 5 for 9 on the Mountaineer lawn. And man, this horse was really a revelation when he flipped over to turf coming up from Charlestown, this West Virginia bred. In fact, Rip Thorne, you can see his last turf win was an open allowance, but it was all the way back in 2024. And he is 10 years old now, and tough to tell just what he's capable of now. Some of these grass horses have more longevity than Methuselah. They really do. They don't seem to age in quite the same manner at the same rate as their dirt counterparts. And I would guess Tim Collins has endeavored to have Rip Thorne as fit as he can, because he would have targeted turf, not that comebacker at Charlestown on dirt. So we'll see what Rip Thorne has left in the tank here. But a 10-year-old who hasn't won since 2024 and only faced a starter like 4 or 5 times last year. I don't know if I can get real enthused about it. Lucky Curlin, number 3. The previous trainer, Tomas Martinez, I saw some kind of a blurb online on social media that he got booted out of his stalls at Mountaineer or something like that. No stalls for him. Usually, you got to do something pretty serious. You got to run a pretty far afoul of management to have your stalls taken away. They don't do that for no reason. If you are running horses and you're getting along with your neighbors in the barn area, and you're not just making a holy mess out of it or cooking on a hot plate as some kind of a fire hazard, and that kind of stuff. And you're not taking horses around the backstretch when you're denied more stalls. And this happens all the time. Guys that have stalls want more. And when they're denied, sometimes they'll sneak around and stow horses in empty stalls whenever they want to. And management tends to frown on that. I was involved in all that for a long, long time. And believe me, they don't kick you out of your stalls for no reason. And usually you get plenty of warning before they do that. Whatever the case, I don't know if you got the same management here or not with Lucky Curlin, who's been a good horse on the turf, no question about it. And perked up a little bit last time on dirt in a race that was won big. I'm not sure the horse that won by 10 there had a license to do that, though. Lucky Curlin's 9 years old. And got to go back a ways to find his good form. It's been versatile in terms of footing. He's won on all three types of surfaces, but he's better on grass, I think, Lucky Curlin. Let me know before you go. This horse is really intriguing here because you can see my note here, my race flow note. Fourth race, soft tempo, likely, and glaring absence of speed. I mean, find me a front runner here. In fact, I think the likeliest early leader might be Let Me Know Before You Go. I might be able to creep out there and really stack them up through some soft splits. Let Me Know Before You Go wins first time off the claim there, and that was on turf. But again, it was a really slow race because I think a mile was running 134, and not by a great horse. About 25 minutes before that 37 from Let Me Know Before You Go. Now, the race I like a lot better than that is Let Me Know's next one. I know the horse ran dead last, so don't snicker in a three-horse field. But that winner was bona fide, baby. Bona fide. Out of allowance races at Charlestown, and had a turf foot to boot. A very imposing turf history. And Thought, who ended up second, is that field got scratched to pieces like disappearing house guests, party guests in a Vincent Price movie. As they disappeared one by one, they left Thought in total control of the pace there, just gallivanted out there as Arabian Calypso. There's no way Let Me Know Before You Go was going to be able to close from 6 lengths back at the pre-stretch there. So those were two bona fide horses that beat Let Me Know Before You Go. And whereas Let Me Know Before You Go had to flow the race dynamics against him for sitting a fairly distant third against just two foes on May 31st. Tonight, this horse could pull a switcho changeo after being alert last time at 5.5. Has been known to get the lead before. And man alive, it would take nothing to get early command here. So I think that this horse merits a lot of respect. I really do. And I'm going to jump on over and see it. You see where minutes to post. I'm going to move down to a horse that I like here. Number 7, Brown Liquor Man. Brown Liquor Man, I listed as one of the poor price points on the Mountaineer Morning line tonight at 12-1. Was always going to be lower. I'm not even sure you're going to get the 6-1 you're looking at right now. Brown Liquor Man. Imposing score on April the 26th didn't prove a whole lot, although the place horse did come back to win pretty well. Brown Liquor Man gets elevated a lot in class from 4,000 condition to the starter ranks. That's a very steep hike. And Brown Liquor Man more than held his own, I think, when you consider that Magoo was something good to eat off a very fast race in Phoenix, is the absolute only speed. You'll see him in later on tonight at an intriguing nightcap under starter 4 conditions. So Brown Liquor Man went well. But that's just half the story because this horse is better on turf, way better on turf. Brown Liquor Man. In fact, he's won at Fairgrounds on turf. He has won at Indy on turf. He has run competitively in stakes races on turf, and you can see his better grass buyers too coming into play. I think Brown Liquor Man could take some beating here. My concern about him would be the tempo, though, because he looks to me like a horse that's going to drop back no matter what. Hopefully, can be halfway tactical, even at the shorter 7/8 distance, but he could be at the mercy of whoever sets the pace or sits right behind whoever sets the pace, because I don't see him going too fast here at all. And the favorite at 9-5 on the outside is Remerton. Remerton was 7 horses to his inside. Normally, that'd be a big knock, but Remerton looks like the type that might take back and tuck in and save some ground here. Remerton, but that would put him against the flow, the probable soft splits that could be on tap here. Now, Remerton is 0 for 7 on conventional. They're looking at that as opposed to the 5 times second on turf and figuring this horse should really improve. And also the race at Tampa there on April the 26th, which kind of begs the question. After being second in an open 10 at Tampa, how come Remington gets sold to come to Mountaineer? Why? What's the psychology about that? Why were they so eager to unload Remington, who did lose there at Thistledown last time? But I got to tell you, that was a pretty snappy performance for a then 0 for 6 dirt campaigner because Remerton ran second as stablemate Sequel, who was unbeaten since coming east from Turf Paradise. He just won at Mountaineer by like 12 or 13 lengths. But what really enhances that performance from Remerton, and I'm going to tell you, is the winner of that is a good closer, Sequel, who went out and took the lead when opportunity knocked at a very pedestrian clip there. So Remerton was in tough with a more heavily bet barnmate there. Probably doesn't want dirt at all to begin with, and was also against the tempo, against the way that race played out was Remerton. So I'm not going to knock Remerton, but I think there might be some better priced opportunities here. Certainly number 7, Brown Liquor Man, who I don't think should be 6 to 1. And number 4, Let Me Know Before You Go, who I think might be better than the public thinks because they might be taking a glance and thinking, okay, big deal to be third at a $25,000 claimer when there were only 2 opponents in there. Big whoop. But again, that performance was legitimate for a couple of reasons. But I think the real possibility for Let Me Know Before You Go would be to get the lead here because the lead will take nothing to attain or to sit very close to what figured to be very soft fractions by 7/8 turf standards. This is a really interesting race. If you check out my scroll at the bottom of the screen, that's a new feature. I'm going to preview some race shapes, the dynamics of how certain races are probably going to play out up top. And that was the whole key on how to attack that race, as it turns out. And I raised the possibility several times before the race. And you can see my key as far as the race flow there was complete absence of speed. So very soft tempo figured to play out there. And that's exactly how it worked. And I mentioned the 4 horses, your likeliest early leader, and also talked about that third place finish in a 3-horse field. There's nothing to snicker about. It was actually a big effort from Let Me Know Before You Go, who shortened up to 5.5 then and figured to come in sharp here and set the pace. Let Me Know Before You Go. I think I also said that the bottom horse was too low, Remerton, and Let Me Know Before You Go was one of 2 much better values and much better possibilities in there. 5-1, pretty good price on Let Me Know Before You Go. If you thought it odd, I didn't talk about the 6 horse before the race. I try to get to all of them, but I can't sometimes. I probably should have in Enlighten's case, but when I don't mention a horse, I don't like the horse. And I had my reasons. I didn't like Enlighten there, who ended up the 2-1 favorite. You can review the tape and you can see I didn't even mention the horse. And that was remiss on my part. But when I don't get to a horse, I don't like that horse and don't figure the horse to play much of a role at a race, believe it or not. And that was the case with me and Enlighten. So complete lack of speed in there converts to an emphatic win for Let Me Know Before You Go at an underbet 5-1. Disappointing run from Brown Liquor Man. I thought he'd do better than that. So we're all dirt from here on out, baby. And here on out consists of 4 races, exactly 4 races. And the best of those races is the nightcap, by the way. An interesting and probably bettable starter allowance route. 5th race is just one of those ho-hum events to where it's probably going to be one of the chalks, but you can't get enthused about the chalks, and you can't really find a foothold on somebody that's going to be a better price. At least I don't think so. But I might have some kind of an idea. This is 5.5, never 2. And these are rock bottom claimers we're talking about. Game Maker, I think, is going to be lower than 7-2. Game Maker held at 7-2 on the program. Yeah, Game Maker's 2-1 up there right now. And Game Maker won well at Mahoning to break maiden there. Did a Game Maker and came back and improved the Beyer first time against winners. Now, that was kind of a quirky race on March the 5th. And the form from that really didn't hold up. But that's no reason for Game Maker to not run any semblance of his A race at 30 cents on the dollar. He was 1-5 at Mountaineer and loses. And I think it's kind of ominous that he's been off a couple of months since then, although Eric Reed's really patient with his horses. But I don't like the drop-off in performance between the last 2 races from Game Maker. I don't like it at all. You can make a pretty stout case that Game Maker is still the likeliest winner in here. But what are you going to do with a horse that was in soft last time at 1-5? Fumbled the ball and it's been off 2 months for this, you know? So we're out of bet this race. I'd look elsewhere. Fernando's Gold. I got a question in the comments. Mark, do you like Fernando's Gold? Can't remember who posed that question to me. I'm going to go back and check here now in the comments. Some guy says, Mark, can't we super chat you for donations for all? Yeah, I'd love to do that, but I don't know how to do it, Jerry. Yeah, tell me how to do it, please, because I got to recoup my investment and all this apparatus down here. And don't even get me started on how much money I have into this setup in my finished basement. Yeah, somebody asked me earlier if I like Fernando's Gold in this race. Apologies, because I can't find your question. Yeah, Fernando's Gold's got a shot. Fernando's Gold is a 2-time winner and runs never 2 as a West Virginia bred, and put that good number up on April the 28th there, and shows back-to-back wire jobs. Might be able to grab the lead here. Comes back on the next one and kind of tanked the fellow West Virginia breds. But the winner of that was like 2-5 or 3-5, and it just won an allowance at Charlestown for Big Heavy Boy, a.k.a. Anthony Ferrier, and he loves that nickname. My man's a little sensitive about his weight. Takes it in a good-natured manner, but I'm not sure he's completely thrilled because Anthony Ferrier is the kind of guy who pulls his stomach in when he comes up to talk to you, you know? That's just who he is. I love the guy, I really do. Big boy, big heavy boy, Anthony Ferrier. Fernando's Gold, yeah, a big chance, I would say, in here. I wouldn't knock the horse. I do have one slight concern, though, because Jeff Dixon doesn't always have an earner in his barn. And when he does, that's the only earner. And he doesn't give them away at less than face value. So considering that this horse won a 12-5 claimer and skipped a condition to do it versus 3 Life West Virginia breds, and then was third in allowance last time, this constitutes somewhat strange placement. And I am just mildly, just a little bit, an weensy bit suspicious of this class drop on Fernando's Gold. Now, to me, Fernando's Gold isn't worth any more than $4,000 on an open claiming market. And Dixon can't run the horse never two against fellow West Virginia breds. I get it. I understand that. So the horse might be A-OK. Could be A-OK. Neither one of those chalks over-enthused me. Come to the Dark Side, number 9. Come to the Dark Side wins by a big margin, but the speed fig was low. And that is just a kiss of death when a horse wins by a bunch of lengths but runs a low final time number. That's not good. And got a soft lead there, too. As in tougher than this, both tries against winners, so the bar is lower here. But loses the never two tries by a total of 26, 27 lengths. And I can't see Come to the Dark Side necessarily getting away with much on top here. This race almost cries for a new shooter to me. And here's Juan Pablo with Devo de Oro on the outside. Now, Devo de Oro has been away since April, a couple of months. Sometimes the silver horses are dead fit off some kind of a rest, but sometimes not so much. Now, Devo de Oro did not do well last time at Tampa. Was supposed to perform better, but at least stayed up close to some fast-looking raw fractions that were evidently closer-friendly. So there's that. And I can piecemeal and pick on some buyers here that would probably romp against this field for Devo de Oro. And sometimes with his private buys, and Tampa is not normally his best buying ground, Juan Pablo. Not normally. His best horses come from Phoenix, who points farther west. But I think Devo de Oro would have a hard time not running half decent in here. I really do. And we do have a bullet workout there on May the 24th from Devo de Oro. I don't know what the price is right now on Devo de Oro. Who's got a history, was second at Gulfstream Park by half length, speed fought at Gulfstream Park, going 7/8. And has been a way better horse than these. And sometimes Juan Pablo can resurrect a horse that has lost its mojo. Yeah, 6-5. They're all over Devo de Oro. No value there whatsoever. I'm talking about how Game Maker the 7 is probably going to be overbet. And Fernando's Gold, I'm mildly suspicious of at a short price. Well, the short price is even money in the outside horse, who I was thinking about. It's a possible wager, but you can't get anything past. You can't slick any kind of a curveball past these wise guys nowadays. You just can't. So to me, I go to Pasadena for this race. I really do. My son and I watched McKenna's Gold last night. Gregory Peck, late 1960s Western. And I love the genre. Westerns, obviously. But there's a subgenre, a certain type of Westerns. And you know the ones I'm talking about, not the ones that are shot in a studio on a sound stage with a fake backgrounds, but the sun-drenched late 60s Westerns that are viewer-friendly and shot on location, just gorgeous locations. And this was in spacious canyons and up on cliffs and stuff like that, and very clearly was shot out on location. And man alive, you talk about a cast. They brought everybody to the kitchen sink in on this one, not just Gregory Peck and Omar Sharif, the two leads, but Eli Wallach popped up. And if you've seen McKenna's Gold, how much do you want to bet that he was considered and probably tried out for the co-lead, the Omar Sharif main villain role, and was kind of given his smaller part as a consolation prize, Eli Wallach. So you have got Julie Newman, who swims in the nude, by the way. And when I'm reading up on the film last night, I guess that made Playboy. She was Catwoman in Batman, the cheesy Batman, the Adam West Batman from the mid-1960s. And then you had Telly Savalas, who pops up as some kind of a corrupt military officer, cavalry officer. Telly Savalas. Burgess Meredith is there. Edward G. Robinson made the scene. The problem is it's all a little bit unwieldy and just kind of wanders around the desert at some points, a little bit aimlessly. Interesting factoid about McKenna's Gold is George Lucas, then a film student, was on assignment to make a documentary about the making of McKenna's Gold. And he would later say what he mainly learned in making that documentary was how not to make movies, because I guess they filmed this humongous, disjointed, unwieldy, cumbersome film, McKenna's Gold, which I do find entertaining, by the way. I do, because I like that genre, that subgenre of Westerns. But I guess so what he learned was how not to make movies, how not to waste money, and how to better edit movies than they managed with McKenna's Gold, which originally, I guess, was over 3 hours. And somewhat reluctantly, they pared it down, and it still runs well over 2 hours. It feels like you're watching for 6 hours. But again, I like the movie, I actually did. So I would give it maybe a tentative thumbs up, McKenna's Gold. 0 minutes to post, and they're kind of circling around the gate, and somebody's dead fire certain that the tenor's Devo de Oro is going to beat up on What's a Soft Assignment and a $4,000 number 2 field. 4 to 5 there. Or just another reminder that it's a gambling game and you got to pair the price with the horse's chances. And my remarks about that particular winner was probably the likeliest winner in the race, Game Maker, but you're going to get too short a price. Not really. As crazy money came in on the 10 horse at 2 to 5, just ridiculous. And Game Maker had to be kind of a value at 3 to 1, right? The last tank job at 1 to 5, notwithstanding, Game Maker comes back. And if you kept the faith, you got 3 to 1 on Game Maker there. If he owed you money, Game Maker there, huh? Can't believe the price ended up that high at 3 to 1. And Devo de Oro, 2 to 5 there. I thought Devo de Oro might have something for that field, but did sound the note of caution there because normally Juan Pablo doesn't do that hot with horses he brings up from Tampa, nor the ones he brings over from Pennsylvania. So a lot of times it's where these horses originate when they come to Mountaineer, not necessarily what barn they land in. And the 6th race is a race I've been dreading all night because it's just not good. This is really, really bad. Maiden special weight, 5.5 furlongs. The purse now on maiden specials at Mountaineer is up to $19,000. I can remember when we first came into some slot money and we were tasked, Joan Arcavish and I, with laying out a purse structure. And the way that works is you don't just start throwing it around here and there and there. What you have to do is cut a drop of purse structure and then give it a dry run over a couple of weeks. In other words, you got to give the money away in races that you fill, and you got to know how frequently you fill them. So you lay out a tentative purse structure that makes some sense, is balanced, gives the better horses more money, and then you put it through a dry run and see how much you would have given away over the course of maybe 12, 15 race cards. That's how you do it. And I was a huge advocate for putting a disproportionate share of our newfound slot wealth into maiden special and non-life allowance races back in the early 2000s, which was Mountaineer's heyday. Those were our solid days because I always thought those races would be a firm backbone for the racing program and maybe a farm system for future feature races. And that's exactly how it panned out because we started to lure the likes of Bernie Flint and Tom Amos, winning maiden special weight races with horses like Danieltown. You guys remember Danieltown? Non-life allowance races with horses you couldn't buy for $80,000. So it was kind of a wise way to distribute, to calibrate our purse distribution back then. And I see 19,000 for this field. And boy, this is a woeful, woeful bunch. And by the way, just to kind of recap that performance from Game Maker, Game Maker is not supposed to be coming back to the likes of Sugar Lips like that at the finish. And you can read 5.5 furlong races, and I've said this a million times, in large part from the final 16th. Kind of like an NBA game, they say if you watch the last 2 minutes, you watch the whole affair. 5.5 furlong races, if you look at how quickly or not so quickly the final 110 played out, then you can get a good feel for who ran how big, who didn't, and what running styles might have been favored. In that case, Game Maker was trying to lose. Believe me, there was just nobody coming who could run at all. Game Maker stayed left lead, and Game Maker needed like more than 7 3/5 seconds, and that is glacial to get the final 16th of a mile. So I would not dream of betting on Game Maker at any future point. My best advice, put him on your permanent pay no attention list, Game Maker. As far as this one goes, oh my, the favorite is going to be a 6-year-old maiden, I think. Number 6, Intel Agent. Intel Agent's over 27. And whereas Florida is not where Silva imports his Mountaineer winners from, not at all. Maryland, Mid-Atlantic location is very much where Virginia Demzik brings her winners from and buys them privately. Intel Agent last time was 3 to 1. I think I picked the horse because there was a super weak speed in their Echo Vision because the bar was really low. There were some front-running styles, and Intel Agent was the closest thing you could find to a horse with an ability to finish. Intel Agent. Those turf buyers did not translate to dirt there, though, for Intel Agent. Intel Agent was close enough, but never really mustered up late. There was slow final 220, actually lost some ground, did Intel Agent, so I can't have a lot of faith in this horse. But as far as likeliest to run well, yeah, that would be Intel Agent. with a 7 times on a ticket and who knows how many times on the board, old school board as part of the superfecta, huh? And man, it may take very little to win this race. Checking out the first time starters, their pedigrees and their outfits. Mike Baird trains Independent Streak there. Independent Streak, the dam had, I think, one horse get to the races, and that was a 5-time winner. So that's a little something to think about. And check out the work there. That 47-4 back on May the 5th. A bullet there on May the 5th. I would caution you, though. Mike Baird's capable of having a horse ready to win first time out of the box, but he doesn't usually do it. His form stat's a little deceptive here. 2 for 7 with first-time starters, when in fact, if you extend that over the full 5-year duration of the formulator stats, that's 2 for 39, folks. 2 for 39. I would definitely keep that in mind, for sure. And as I flip over to DRF here and check out some of the pedigrees in this race. Yeah, Socialize the dam. Yeah, she was a 5-time winner. And the only other full, besides Independent Streak, a 5-time winner there. Yeah, so there's something to be said for that. Plus, you got the bullet work. And you would think the way to beat Intelliagent would be to grab the lead. So maybe one of these firsters has got some speed. Jennifer Johnson's got a couple of firsters in here. You know what? Don't laugh because the record's not good, but I've seen her win with first-time starters, and she does run fit horses. She puts Arroyo on one of them, and Kevin Gonzalez, who she never puts on a live one, on the other one. So Arroyo is kind of a newcomer, a force at the mountain is Arroyo. And you can see where Something Sweet evidently out-drilled Off the Beaten Path in their final preparation for this race on June the 2nd there. Now, the dam Zoya of Something Sweet was only 1 for 9 as a race mare, but I think she had some early speed. Nope, I'm sorry. She never started. No, her only foal to get to the race is Zoya's Faith did have early foot, 21 and change early foot. So on the bottom of the pedigree, not class and not an established producer. But some speed on the bottom part of the pedigree there for Something Sweet. Off the Beaten Path, and I don't normally delve anything like this in the pedigree notes, except you got to touch these bases in here because, man alive, this race could be so easy to win. This field, the established horses are so lackluster. Off the Beaten Path dam, number 5. I don't like this one as much as I do the other Jennifer Johnson horse. The dam, I think, was a 2-turn turf horse who only ran once in her career. The 2 barns that send out these 3 first-time starters are outfits that deal mainly in West Virginia breds. Yet these are Kentucky breds and a Florida bred there. Also, Princess Honor on the outside is 6-1. Princess Honor vied for the lead a few times at Tampa and held on for 4th once or twice. Didn't bring that speed, though. Didn't bring the Florida speed to Mountaineer at all. The only lead from 3 local starts was going 6 furlongs on a modest opening stanza there, Princess Honor. She just has not raised a hoof in anger since she hit the mountain there. She's 5-1 because I guess she is the quote unquote established speed in this field, you know? And checking out the total, does 8-5 mean the one horse is live, or does it mean the wagering public is desperate to find something to latch on to here? And they've focused on that 47 and change work there from Independent Streak. Yeah, maybe that's the more plausible explanation, huh? Maybe that 41 buyer makes Intel agent regret, and I don't mean literally regret in verb form, but I mean might make Intel agent the regret, the first Distaff Kentucky Derby winner. And boy, was she underrated. Check her out in Champions, the Daily Racing Form coffee table book, and it's a great tome to possess. And go strolling down memory lane, the best horses of every decade going back to like equipoise and stuff like that when they used to run heats on Long Island. And I kid you not. And boy, she's only mentioned in the annals of history as the first female Kentucky Derby winner, but she was more than that. She was a super mare regret. So until agent off that 41 bar might be regret compared to this field. I guess it's possible. Although at 9 to 5, the come from behind style and those 27 losses. I don't know. Plus, I would caution you that Intel Agent won't necessarily improve second time off the bench there because Virginia Demzik has had her horses dead ready first time back. So I think I've given you plenty of reasons why nobody can win this race, which means I'm not going to bet on anybody. So considering that first time out for Virginia Demsic, Intelligent, I guess that's how you're going to pronounce it. It said close to a rapid pace setter there. Echo Vision have finished third. Maybe there was a possibility that the normally sluggish Intelligent could actually get the lead from an even more sluggish field. And that's how it played out. So this race was over early at 9-5 as Independent Streak off that 47 and change work. I don't think there was any inside scoop out on Independent Streak, but I think a lot of the players were probably disenchanted with the 0 for 27 thing with Intelligent and looking desperately for another option. And I did bring it to your attention that the 2 for 7 Mike Baird record with first-time starters over the last year and a half, 2 years is very deceptive and not in a good way because the actual extended stat is 2 for 39. 2 for 39, guys. Good trainer, but doesn't necessarily get the screws tight to crack first time out. 4-horse ran pretty well there. Something sweet. That's a barn that gets him ready to run well first time out, Jennifer Johnson. And I'm looking at the comments. My man Kenny Neely said, hey, did they actually give 11,000 plus to that winner? Yeah, sadly enough, they did, Kenny. And Hubert Gaffney says, I don't think I want to bet that one back. Me either. Ross Black or Maiden No More. I guess that's apropos, huh? And also, some of you guys that are trying to tell me about Super Chat, please stick with it and educate me, guys. And I've said it before, I consider you guys my friends, not viewers, my friends. I really do. And I appreciate your support very, very much. So we've got 2 races to go, just 8 carded tonight. There are 9 on Tuesday nights, correct? That's how it is. Is this the day before summer? Do you guys get a weird feeling sometimes at the outset of summer that summer's already over? Does your life fly by that quickly in the same manner that mine does? So day after tomorrow, let me get this straight. I've never quite believed this. The days are going to begin to get shorter? That's a frightening thought. Just terrifying. Next race is a good one. This is a starter 12-5 for West Virginia breds. We've got, I think, 5 horses going to the post. Yeah, we do. And this is a big showdown between the formidable Abundant Energy and the very tough Zealous Storm, who's been part of the exacting 11 out of 12 lifetime outings there. Zealous Storm and Abundant Energy is a 500 hitter, and the win column 5 for 10. And at least on paper, the race very much comes down to these two. As Abundant Energy with the better buyers. The almighty buyers in large part determine who gets bet is 3-5, and Zealous Storm is 2-1. Abundant Energy has been the better horse. I will give him that. Abundant Energy. Something a little bit unusual. Usually, the way West Virginia breds are managed, they go through their conditions in the restricted ranks because then they get the same conditions back in open competition. But Jaybird didn't worry much about that with Abundant Energy, who I guess he felt coming along when Mahoning opened and just didn't want to wait and sit around on a horse that was starting to get the hang of it, Abundant Energy. So Abundant Energy whips off win, 3 in a row there. And 75 buyer, 74 buyer. Boy, that's impressive stuff. What an A other than allowance as a West Virginia bred, huh? Gets a stakes opportunity. That never works out for Mountaineer horses. So next time, spotted for action. A meaningful class drop there, which strikes me as a little bit curious, but Abundant Energy, if anything, ups his final time figure. And the horse that he ran down, I think validates that number because that was like a 13 or 15 time winner, maybe more, from Charlestown. Let me check it out real quick here because I got the form pulled up. That was a many time winner from Charlestown. It was in good form. And who got a soft lead there? Who got a loose lead on Abundant Energy? Rocket Appeal. Storm and Rocket, the third finisher, came back to win and beat a good field. Rocket appealed a 13-time winner with some $300,000 and would come back to be second at Charlestown and set an uncontested lead there. So he was a tall order to rein in for Abundant Energy there. Superlative performance from Abundant Energy. But I do have a slight question. A horse that's still eligible for 2 other than and 3 other than. How come he's given away for 12.5 at the claim box? Jaybird had to suspect that could be a one-way ticket to Palookaville, that he wouldn't take Abundant Energy back to his barn, especially a horse eligible to run in West Virginia restricted spots until the end of time there. So I'm a little curious, and it's almost against my religion to endorse or back a horse who's claimed is very short chalk on a steep class drop. A lot of times they win, but the claimants get the booby prize. So that might be just a mild concern. Another concern I would have about backing the super talented, best horse in the race, Abundant Energy, against Zealous Storm is we're only going 5/8, and Zealous Storm is faster, clearly faster to the first call. And I think in my crawl at the bottom of my YouTube channel there, I think I still have it up there. Yeah, race key when it comes to race flow. Can Zealous Storm readily dispatch number 6 and thus gain advantage over a formidable rail runner? Because if Zealous Storm puts away Remy's Gunsmoke early on, that gives Zealous Storm a distinct advantage over Abundant Energy because we're only going 5 furlongs. And Zealous Storm's brave enough to come from behind the pace in a full 6 furlong race. And it took a good horse to beat Zealous Storm. That was an Anthony Adamo steed, very talented, who was chalk and who came back to win at Fort Erie after that. The thing with Zealous Storm is it takes a good horse to beat Zealous Storm, but Zealous Storm usually loses when he is in with a good horse. Because you can see Team Charlestown made the scene to beat him at Mountaineer, Wish on Juba a couple of times, Annapolis Road, and the horse that beat Zealous Storm also on October the 14th was up from Charlestown. So it takes Team Charlestown to come in and beat Zealous Storm in his own ballpark. But when Zealous Storm's in with a good horse, Zealous Storm usually settles for second, which he has done 7 times. But the drop, you never know if a horse is going to run the same off the change of hands. You just don't. There was a time when Jaybird, from the standpoint of pure horsemanship, often got improved on through the claim box, but that time is long gone. And you don't know what the claimants got there, haltering a horse on a steep class drop at 6-5, if what you see is what you're going to get out of the claim box. If so, Abundant Energy could run right over Zealous Storm, however this unfolds up top, and leave hoof prints. Zealous Storm, obviously, though, faster to first call than Abundant Energy. And the first race to watch is not the marquee matchup between Zealous Storm and Abundant Energy. It's going to be about like a match race. It's between Zealous Storm and Remy's Gunsmoke to the first call, because Remy's Gunsmoke, I don't give a ghost of a chance here to beat the big 2. But Remy's Gunsmoke has rediscovered his speed. The former 4.5 furlong Charlestown horse rediscovered his speed this year. Now, he was in with no other speed last time and was hooked on top the time before, Remy's Gunsmoke. But he looks like he might be quick enough to inconvenience Zealous Storm as the 2 horse, no question, gets sent out here trying to get the lead, right? Would you guys agree? I'm going to hang back for the post parade just momentarily. They're almost even Steven in the win pool right now. Even money on Abundant Energy, who's on your picture, and 6-5 on Zealous Storm. Number 5, Rescue 5, and number 7, Demby Zuma, who was claimed on a glass drop from a really good trainer and didn't fire. That was ominous when he was claimed there at 5-2 last September and hasn't done much since. They're kind of like And the Rest in the first season theme song from Gilligan's Island before the Professor and Marianne won their way into the theme song. The Professor and Marianne, first year it was And the Rest, though, and they're And the Rest, Rescue 5 and Dembe Zuma here. I think Remy's Gunsmoke's overbet also at 9-2. I think that's pretty clear as well. Went to the Wendy's drive-through line. This must be my data rant. And you can hear the cars in front of you on that intercom. And the 2 cars in front of me that ordered everything on the menu, I'm there to get a Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper, which I'm addicted to, and I wish they had, out of the fountain and with a lot of ice. At McDonald's or some other fast food places, they don't. So I got to go to Wendy's to get it. And I love this stuff. I drink a large Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper every day. It's just not the same out of a can when you buy it at the grocery store. It's the best Diet Pop, in my opinion. So anyways, obviously, the 2 cars in front of me are ordering the entire menu. But it's not enough that they run through everything, a recitation of everything they're going to buy, evidently for their whole family tree. But to preface every single item, it's, can I get a number 3 combo? Can I get a Dr. Pepper with that? And can I get a small Frosty? Banana swirl to go with that? Can I get some chicken pieces? Can I get 2 large? Yes, you can get it. That's the whole idea. They give it to you, my man, for money. You don't have to preface everything you buy with, can I get? Yes, you can get it. So don't say it 85 trillion times when I'm behind you at the drive-thru at some fast food joint. Can I get? Can I get? No, they're not in the mood to get it for you. Slightly lower price on Zella Storm, who was out of sole purpose, who Jamie Poole trained, I think, to be a 500 hitter. She might have concluded her career like 12 for 25 or 12 for 24, something like that. And she had a brilliant turn of early foot, too. Not that that is relevant tonight. Good horse race coming up. I would probably lean to Zella Storm because of the change of hands on what could have been, I don't know. Do you guys think it was conceivably a negative drop on Abundant Energy, as big as that one fired? Or were they using an ugly stakes line to jam this one down in steel? And also, it's not like the 2 horses guaranteed to get the lead early on here because Remy's Gunsmoke brings the equivalent of cheap speed. But if push would come to shove, I think the winner's got to be one of them. I might give the 2 horse just the slightest nod. So my man Kenny Neely, good handicapper, asked me for my thoughts, and I love to recap races. And my takeaway is this: Once Abundant Energy, who's a really stout finisher, was in front of Zealous Storm early. This was a wrap. Zealous Storm is not going to outkick Abundant Energy. Ironically enough, though, I don't think that was vintage Abundant Energy. Abundant Energy 101 for 5/8 there is not going to come close to those 75 and 76 buyers. And if you watch Zealous Storm closely there, Zealous Storm not only more sluggish than might have been expected, but Zealous Storm kind of a choppy mover. Short strides, was drifting out. So I don't think either of the big two fired nearly as well as they might have been expected to on paper. Otherwise, how can Dembe Zuma be flying at the two of them to lose by about 2.5 lengths? So again, I still think it was something of a negative drop last time on Abundant Energy. And Zealous Storm, I don't think came with any semblance of his A game in here because he was more sluggish than I would have expected. And watch the choppy short striding thing on Zealous Storm, who's not an athletic mover, at least wasn't tonight. So that's my takeaway from the 7th race, Kenny. Bottom line, though, Abundant Energy, I gets the lion's share of that pot and gets back almost the entire purchase price. A West Virginia bred who's eligible for some lucrative spots to boot, if those races will fill for Abundant Energy. And we got one to go. It's a pretty good one. Starter 4 to go 1 mile. And my race key, one of my race keys was Zealous Storm have a go at Remy's Gunsmoke and put Remy's Gunsmoke away. When that didn't happen, it was advantage of Abundant Energy. And I do put the race flow notes, my own observations about keys to watch for and how races develop up top. And maybe a starting point to attack some of these races. Earlier on, they were pretty spot on when I mentioned that the pace was going to be stiff and probably competitive in race number 3, and the speeds did back up there in race number 3 and mentioned in race number 4. It was woefully lacking an early foot, and the pace figured to be pedestrian. I've got that on my race flow notes, and indeed that race was wired at an underbet 5-1 by the likeliest early leader. Let me know before you go. So, and my race note, my race flow note on the 7th also kind of came true because when Zealous Storm wasn't fast enough to contest Remy's Gunsmoke early, it was advantage of Abundant Energy. But my overarching observation there, I don't think either one of them fired. Not even their A- race. So we got 1 mile for the nightcap, starter 4,000. And this is a couple of kinds of rematches. It's a pace rematch between Force of Justice and Magoo. Force of Justice came back a running to push the win streak to 3 and then to 4. And the next one, both at 5.5, was Super Alert, stretches out to 1 mile. Had never even run a route, I don't think, before those 2 straight route victories, which were really impressive at the tail end of last season's campaign for Force of Justice, and showed a route, stamina, and also an ability to rate just a little bit. None of that looked in play last time on May the 26th as Force of Justice was in a tough spot, pulled on the outside and forced to run really hard to get to Magoo on that far turn. And that depleted Force of Justice. And my race keynote here, and there it is, scrolling on the bottom, this Force of Justice attempted top swift from Magoo, given favorable shift in post positions, as last time Magoo was number 3 and Force of Justice number 8. So kind of flip those posts in a sense in here in favor of Force of Justice. I don't know, Lucas. Magoo's going to get hard sent. DeGrand's aggressive. Magoo's got a lot of speed. And I'm not sure there's anything in the works here besides another hot competitive pace. Although it could be advantage Force of Justice this time if you're intent on one of the fronts. Number 2, Big Spin. Last time at an off-turf race that did see the speeds back up on May the 26th there. And I'm trying to recall what my bias notes were. But on May the 26th, and I'm going to check them out even as we're talking. And I'm going to see if that was closer friendly that night. It was an off-turf race. And I think I liked that horse at 6-1 in that race when I was doing my signal from the other place, from my still operational website, The Dungeon. And so I'm going to check that out right now. And big spin last time on an all closers ticket. So it did play out with a stiff pace in favor of Big Spin, who didn't fire the time before against Lone Speed stablemate, but with a contested pace, got his game back on the flip to Arroyo, and Arroyo is 42%. So he's been a force for silver. You can bet imported. Arroyo told him, come on in. I'm going to give you first call on my barn. And Arroyo is making the most of it. And the pace is probably Big Spin friendly again. There's a third style in here too, though, and that's Pace, number 5. Pace figures to get first run on Big Spin. Should be better positioned. And maybe gets the initial charge at these leaders if they do deign to come back. Magoo and Force of Justice. Pace last time couldn't deal with Magoo, who was just totally loose. There was a late speed scratch there, which altered the pace. And off those 70 buyers, 70 and change buyers in Phoenix's Lone Speed was something good to eat there. On May the 17th was Magoo. And Pace couldn't deal with it. Pace gets more help in here, though. And might have a really good style to make that turn move. Former allowance horse who's kind of coming back around and beat Big Spin by getting first run on Big Spin there. On April the 28th, right? Now, Pace did not come back and dance that dance on May the 26th because I guess he couldn't come back in 9 days. No shame in that. This Big Spin did come back in 9 days. And Magoo also started back in just 9 days there. High Rolling Dude on the outside, long in the tooth, and lost last time in an on 6-month condition race. Did High Rolling Dude. He's been a really good horse, but I'm not sure this 19-time career winner at this stage of his game is starter allowance timber. And this really isn't that weak on paper, is each running style, at least most of the running styles, strongly represented in here. And he's only 6-1. I think that's too low. Force of Justice, I guess, with a route race under his belt, which is sometimes beneficial in Mountaineer. A couple of sprints don't always tighten a horse up to go long. And from a better post position here. Big Spin's 2-1. I love Pace's running style. I don't mind that he skipped that May 26th race and was forced to chase last time Magoo, who was razor sharp and had things his own way, had the huge tactical advantage. So Pace is a horse that's better, I think, than his last race looks. I like his style for this. And I think he should be lower than 4-1, which we're looking at right now at just 1 minute to post. Intriguing race. Hey, appreciate you guys checking in and giving a look-see to what I'm doing here on my new website. I'm sorry, Freudian slip, on my new YouTube channel. And I'm going to keep doing this as long as somebody tunes in and wants to watch. I will be coming up at 15 till 7 on every single night the Mountaineer runs. And it's my plan right now to tack Mahoning on and also do Mahoning analysis, real-time Mahoning analysis when they come in. And that will entail some double headers too, which I'll do. I'll make the commitment to do Mahoning in the afternoon and the Mountain at night whenever those two tracks do overlap. So happy Father's Day to you fathers and to you sons of fathers out there. And to the sons, I hope your dads are still with you. And if not, I hope you have the same kind of fond memories that flood into my mind. About once a day, to be honest about it. So anyways, Mark Patterson out.